Imagine walking along a remote beach and discovering a treasure buried beneath the sand. Not gold, not jewels, but dozens of tiny faces staring back at you. Some look worried, some look angry, and some appear completely terrified.
For nearly 800 years, they had been waiting there.
And to this day, nobody knows why. This is the mystery of the Lewis Chessmen. The year was 1831.
On the windswept Isle of Lewis, in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, a local man noticed something unusual in the sand.
At first, it didn't look like much, just a small opening in a sandy bank. But as digging began, something extraordinary emerged. Carved figures, lots of them, one after another. Kings, queens, bishops, knights, and fierce warriors. The collection kept growing. By the end, more than 90 objects had been uncovered, and they weren't ordinary artifacts. Most were carved from walrus ivory. Many still carried traces of their original color. But what captured people's attention wasn't the craftsmanship, it was the faces.
These weren't blank figures.
They looked alive. The kings stared forward with stern expressions. The queens appeared deep in thought. Some looked bored, others looked concerned.
And then there were the warriors.
Several seemed to be biting their own shields, as if they were preparing for battle or having a very stressful day. The discovery quickly became one of the most famous archaeological finds in British history.
But it also raised a question that nobody could answer. How did these pieces end up buried on a remote island? To understand the mystery, we have to travel back to the Viking Age.
Today, the Isle of Lewis is part of Scotland.
But centuries ago, these islands were deeply connected to the Norse world.
Vikings sailed these waters constantly. Trade routes linked Scotland, Ireland, Iceland, and Norway. The sea wasn't a barrier, it was a highway, and evidence suggests the Lewis Chessmen were probably made in medieval Norway. Most historians believe they were carved in Trondheim, a major center of trade and craftsmanship during the 12th century. The style matches Norwegian artwork from the period. The materials fit, the craftsmanship fits. Everything points toward Norway.
But that only creates another mystery. If the pieces were made there, how did they end up buried hundreds of miles away on a Scottish island? Someone had to bring them. Someone had to carry them across dangerous seas. And somehow, they never reached their destination.
So who buried them? That's where things become fascinating. One theory suggests they belonged to a merchant. Perhaps he was transporting valuable goods between trading centers. Maybe a storm forced him ashore. Maybe he feared thieves. Maybe he buried the pieces temporarily, planning to return later.
But if that's what happened,
why didn't he come back? Another theory is even more dramatic.
Perhaps the owner was robbed,
or killed,
or lost at sea.
The North Atlantic was not a forgiving place.
A single storm could end a journey forever.
And if the owner disappeared, the secret of the hiding place would disappear with him.
For centuries, the chessmen remained untouched beneath the sand,
waiting,
while kingdoms rose and fell above them.
The owner never returned, and nobody knows why.
Then researchers noticed something strange.
The collection wasn't a complete chess set. In fact, it contained pieces from multiple sets.
Some pieces were missing entirely.
Others appeared in unusual numbers. That changed everything.
What if this wasn't someone's personal chessboard?
What if it wasn't a game at all?
Many scholars now believe the collection may have been part of a merchant's inventory, a shipment, a medieval business transaction,
the equivalent of expensive merchandise being transported for sale. Suddenly, the mystery looked different.
Instead of imagining a nobleman protecting his favorite game, historians began imagining a trader carrying valuable goods across Viking trade routes. And somewhere along the journey, something went wrong.
Very wrong.
But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the Lewis Chessmen is their humanity.
Look closely at the faces. The kings sit rigidly on their thrones. They project authority.
But they also look tired.
The queens appear thoughtful,
almost worried. The bishops seem calm and dignified.
And then come the most famous figures of all.
The berserkers. These warriors grip their shields and bite down on them with wild intensity. According to Norse legends, berserkers were elite fighters who entered battle in a near-frenzied state.
Whether these figures were meant to represent a legend isn't certain.
But they certainly leave an impression.
Nearly 800 years later, people still smile when they see them.
Because despite the centuries separating us, the faces feel familiar.
Human, recognizable.
It's easy to forget that these weren't just chess pieces. Someone carved every expression by hand. Someone gave each figure a personality. And somehow, Those personalities survived the Middle Ages.
The Lewis Chessmen have survived storms, centuries, and forgotten histories.
Yet their greatest mystery remains unsolved. Who buried them?
Why were they hidden?
And what happened to the person who was supposed to come back?
The answers disappeared long ago, but the faces remain.
Still waiting, still watching,
and still guarding one of medieval history's most intriguing secrets. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more hidden history and the mysteries behind the world's greatest artifacts.